Welcome back, everyone. We have Nova Minerals Limited, trades on the NASDAQ under the symbol NVA and on the ASX under the symbol NVA. It's a gold and critical minerals exploration and development company focused on advancing the Estelle Gold Project. Please welcome CEO and Executive Director, Christopher Gerteisen. Welcome to the conference again, Chris. How are you today?
Excellent. Great to be back, Anna.
Wonderful. The floor is yours. Call me back when you're ready for questions.
Okay, thank you. It's a very exciting time for Nova Minerals. We're just listed on the NASDAQ, ticker code NBA. What we have is the Estelle project, where we're developing North America's next major gold and critical minerals district, and truly is a district. We've been focused on the gold. We're a gold company. That story's strong and getting stronger. We've also made very significant discoveries of antimony, silver, copper, and some of these other critical elements that are so highly sought after these days. At a glance, 200 square mile state of Alaska claim block. To date, we've defined almost 10 million ounces across the project. Now, our SK 1300 resources, in pit constrained at a $2,000 gold price, is 5.2 million ounces. So those can be converted to reserves in upcoming production scenarios. That's across two deposits. Corbel up north, bulk tonnage system, large deposit, and then what's really become the jewel in the crown down south at RPM, very high-grade deposit there. And we're laser focused on getting RPM into production as soon as possible for cash flow. In addition to that, 20 other known prospects at various stages of advancement across the property. One I'll point out there is Stibium, where we've made one of our very high-grade antimony discoveries. And that has drawn a lot of interest from the likes of the Department of Defense and other sectors here in the United States. So just the foundation to sum it up, it is ultimately a larger project, district scale play. If you take that larger project, and we've looked at this, it has decades of mine life, almost 20-year mine life already with the resources we have, with multiple mining centers producing multiple commodities. Very lucrative NPV. The challenge right now is the CapEx is quite high. So the project benefits from having optionality in how we attack this, how we develop this. And so that, like I said, we're laser focused now on RPM. This is a smaller mine, lower CapEx, quicker startup, and with very high margins. And so with our last drilling program we just completed, we're looking at a target there of 500,000 ounces at 2 grams per ton, with a higher grade feeder core of approximately 150, 200,000 ounces at 5 grams per ton, very high margin material. And then out of that cash flow, we'll grow ourselves into the much larger project in kind of a step-by-step phased basis, and or take on a strategic partnership. Not many projects like this left in the world. There are companies, we're on their radar, major companies, mid-tiers on their radar. I'm on their radar, knocking at our door, looking at our data room. And so we would consider a strategic partner at some stage who would then advance the project with us into the larger project. So that's the gold story. Don't want to dilute that, but another opportunity has presented itself, and that is the discovery of antimony in the form of massive stibnite veins out there. And we are pursuing Department of Defense grant opportunities to pursue that opportunity. This is also very lucrative, with antimony prices currently at record highs. And so we can get into that in very short order within the next 18 months potentially. And that's why we're seeking that DOD grant funding to do exactly that. Moving forward, we're in the Tintina Gold Province. This has been one of the most prolific belts here in Alaska and worldwide in recent decades. Our neighborhood, you can see Kinross, one of their flagship operations at Fort Knox there. This is the land of the intrusive related gold system. On the Yukon side, Newmont's operating just to the west of us, Barrick Nova Gold with their Donlin project, 40 million ounces there almost. So 10 million plus ounce deposits, not uncommon in our neighborhood. And that's certainly what we're onto at Estelle. Zooming in now, looking south central Alaska, looking east towards Anchorage. We're 100 miles west of Anchorage. First thing to note, we're all on state land here. That includes the project and this infrastructure. That means much more streamlined permitting process, when it comes to that stage. Also just day-to-day, very pleasant environment working with our very supportive state agencies. In terms of infrastructure, so important with these projects. Access, we have a 4,000 foot plus airstrip on the site, can bring in large aircraft, DC-3s. The pink line, that's our winter road, very common in this part of the world. Do a lot of heavy freight haul along that road. It is seasonal, however, so we're getting very excited now about the red line. That's the proposed West Susitna Access Road project. This is a state-funded project, and it's gone beyond proposal. They're looking to break ground on that next year now. All the studies have been completed. Whole economic corridor in there. Lots of things going on. So we're only one of many beneficiaries here at the at the terminus of the road. In terms of power, lots of options. The blue line, that's the proposed gas pipeline going out to Donlin to the west of us. That passes about 10 miles to the north of us, so that potential offtake there. We've also looked at the option of our own transmission line straight to the Beluga power plant. All gas fields here, feeding Anchorage in the valley where I live. So that transmission line would be 70 miles. That's the yellow line. Also along that route, there's a coal project gaining momentum here. Not averse to coal in Alaska. 60-70% of our power does come from coal. And so that would take our transmission line down to 20 miles. Very cost-effective solution for power. Also, interestingly, we're looking at micronuclear reactors. Big push for that in the state of Alaska. The remote Alaskan Native villages are clamoring for these. We've been talking to companies like Westinghouse, Nano Nuclear out of the UK. All the technologies there is just a regulatory issue. And the first one of those, a Westinghouse unit, I believe, is to go into the big Air Force base up in Fairbanks around 2026. So all those options I just presented in terms of power are where the power provider, the capital expenditure is borne by the power provider, and we just take on a long-term power purchase agreement and become part of our OPEX. Now, there's also then the option of diesel generators, and that's how most mines do it. So with the winter road and diesel generators, certainly our RPM quick startup, lower CapEx option, that's how we intend to do it. But then we'll grow ourselves into these other power options as we move forward into the larger project. Zooming in on the project, 35-kilometer long mineralized intrusive corridor. And here we've been focused on four main areas, Corbel and RPM, where we have our resources defined, and then Stony and Train, where most of our exploration has taken place. There's some outer line prospects, but those have been the main areas like Stibium's outer line. Spinning around, looking north, our direct neighbor is U.S. Gold Mining with their Whistler project. They're on the porphyry copper gold systems there. We have the same geology. And so we also have some very large porphyry targets in our exploration. Now let's zoom down to the south and have a closer look at RPM. So at RPM to date, our work has defined three main zones, north, south, and valley, all having the potential to merge as we continue to infill drill. Relatively recent discovery, only been working on this about 2 years with great success. At RPM North Zone, 780,000 ounces. Already defined with a very high grade measured and indicated high confidence core that we continue to work on and prove up and grow. And then a short distance away right next to it is RPM South. Initial drilling there yields 350,000 ounces. Here's the actual drilling. And you can see that most of it has been focused around RPM North, which we're trying to get into production as soon as possible. All that close space drilling, and we keep chipping away at north, at south in the valley zones. Here's some drill intercepts. And these are just spectacular world-class intercepts, some of the best intercepts globally for these gold projects over the last 10 years. I'll read a couple off. RPM 005, 400 meters at 3.5 grams per ton, including 132 meters at 10 grams per ton. RPM 015 here, 258 meters at 5 grams per ton, including 117 meters at 11. 45 meters at 25 grams per ton. So as I said, just spectacular world-class intercepts, very typical of north and valley zones there. And then here at RPM South, haven't hit the big bonanza intercepts yet, but we've hit it. We're onto it. This is definitely pay dirt. You can see here RPM 023, 333 meters at 0.9, including 94 meters at a gram, 15 meters at 2.3. That's pay dirt. We'll certainly make money off that at RPM South, but we keep working there to infill drill. Now we're looking at a cross section, looking north through the RPM North and Valley zones. I have the 1 gram per ton cutoff grade shell on there, and you can see even at that very high grade cutoff, RPM North hangs together. Very nice, very thick, very continuous. And that's that pod we're looking at to get into production as soon as possible. Right here at RPM North, very high grade. Now we're drilling down into the valley, and you can see another high grade zone starting to take shape there. So we keep infill drilling that. I'm putting on the 0.3 gram per ton grade shell. This is much more aligned to a mining cutoff. Here, and you can see some rocks on the right-hand side. It's those light-colored rocks we're after. That's the mineralized, intrusive, intense veining, visible gold, and then the dark-colored rocks on the bottom, hornfels, tends to be barren. So it's a very visual deposit. We know we're in the right stuff when we're drilling it, which makes it very nice, minimize the waste drilling. We generate economic pit shells for our SK 1300. This is at an $1,800 gold price. And with SK 1300, when you report resources, it has to be in-pit constrained resources. But you can see the deposits are much larger, hanging down here, more resource outside the pit, also here off to the side. So we continue to infill drill those areas. And of course, at a rising gold price, now what, over 2,600, these pits will just get larger and deeper and capture more and more of that resource moving forward. So we'll present that in our upcoming resource statements with the new gold price. Here's the resource classification. Most of the resources around RPM North are measured and indicated high confidence. You can see the drilling here outside the resource currently. That is not included in the resource yet. And now this year's drilling, which we just completed also. So we intend to do a resource update before the end of the year. And that's our new target is 500,000 ounces at 2 grams per ton. The remainder of the deposit remains inferred, so still infill drilling there to prove it up and to start linking these zones together, which are open. And all of our geological mapping and drill data indicates that RPM South and Valley have the potential to link together. 600 meters of strike length in there, big volume of upside. And then between Valley and North, that's still wide open as well. And so that's what we've been drilling this year, actually, to link these two zones together. Begin to start to do that. So right now, this deposit is 1.2 million ounces, easily a 2-3 million ounces. 2 to 3 million ounce deposit. We believe just got to get in there and infill and do the drilling to prove that. Now, so that's RPM. Like I said, we're focused on getting that into production as soon as possible. But let's take you a short distance north to one of our exciting exploration projects, the Train area. What you're looking at is another massive intrusive related gold system starting to take shape. Looking at surface samples, rock chips from outcrop, soil samples there. And you can see at Train Prospect proper, high grade gold all over the place, 80 grams per ton up to 30s and 40s grams per ton. Then about a kilometer to the north of that is the Trumpet Prospect. We actually think Train and Trumpet connect. We map the intrusive between both. But at Trumpet, same story, up to 132 grams per ton. And here we're starting to recognize the multi-element potential coincident with the gold. You can see hundreds of grams per ton silver, percents of copper, antimony, many of the other critical elements here in with the gold at Trumpet. Also at Shoeshine, one of the highest grade rock chips ever, 1,290 grams per ton, just shows you the extreme high grade potential, but also multi-element potential here, silver, copper, antimony, other critical elements. And then last one in the Train area, Muddy Creek. This one tends to be gold only, very high grade gold, a little bit of silver, but very clean metallurgically. Not many of the other elements in here. Up to 127 grams per ton, 90. On average, the rock chips here are running 18 grams per ton. Even the soil samples, which tend to just be an indicator to generate targets, are running ore grades at an average of 2.5 grams per ton. So those areas are our future upside. We intend to drill those in the years to come and establish a third and a fourth resource to join RPM and Corbel, which I'll take you to now. So this is the south area. This is where we're focused on getting RPM into production, and then we'll grow into Corbel. And we're heading north now, past our fully winterized 80-man camp airstrip. There you see all the facilities, on-site prep lab, year-round operation, heading up to Corbel Valley. Up north here, same story, lots of things we're working on. Let's focus in on those black dots. Corbel main deposit, 2.7 million ounces of in-pit resources defined to date. At Cathedral, short distance away, new discovery, already initial drilling yields 1.3 million ounces on this knob here. Corbel, Maine. So this is a bulk tonnage deposit, 2.5-kilometer strike length. It's not just one of these narrow vein things. It's a sea of mineralization. The entire host rock is mineralized with these sheeted veins in there. Lends itself to a very low strip ratio. So it's right on the surface. Almost everything you dig up there is some kind of pay dirt. So ideal economics. And 500 meters away at Cathedral, just getting started there, but at a minimum, we see another Corbel, Maine taking shape. Long section looking east through Corbel, Maine, 800 million tons at 0.3 grams per ton. So bulk tonnage, lower grade deposit. Now, there is a higher grade feeder core that goes through there. And what I mean by that, you can see these intercepts here, 94 meters at a gram, 101 meters at 1.3 grams, including 30 meters at 2.4, 113 meters at a gram, very representative of that high grade feeder core. So when I put on the 0.5 gram per ton grade shell, that encompasses that high grade core, very continuous down along strike through the center of the deposit. And then putting on the 0.3 gram per ton grade shell really bulks out 800 million tons, as said. So what do we intend to do with this? So we'll start at RPM and then we'll grow ourselves into this deposit. I mentioned the high grade feeder core. That's our starter pit right on the surface. We'll get into that first, direct mill feed. The lower grade portions of the deposit, to understand the sheeted veins are running through here. When you selectively sample those veins, they're running ounces per ton. And so it's just in the lower grade portions of the deposit, the vein density is less. And so what we intend to do with this is take the lowest grade portions of the deposit, send it off to a heap leach pad, very low cost recovery method, and then we'll classify a medium grade material and we'll utilize ore sorting to separate out these high-grade veins. We've done extensive test work on this. It just works exceptionally well. We're seeing a 10-time upgrade. We're seeing we can take 0.4, 0.5 gram material and upgrade it up to 4 or 5 grams per ton. And so that's why we include all that in our resource, because we know we can make money off it, good money. Most of the in-pit resources are high confidence indicated, working on this years before we even discovered RPM. There is inferred still around the edges, plenty of upside to step out and continue to grow that deposit. And then at Cathedral, inferred, early days, still working away there. Lots of work to do there still. So here's some surface samples at Corbel, and you can see at these grades, 114 grams per ton, 98 grams per ton. That's what we're separating out with the ore sorters. And you can see at those grades how we readily achieve that 10-time upgrade with the ore sorters by separating out those veins. Now, let's talk more about the process. We've done quite a bit of metallurgical test work, developed our flow sheet. So we're finding it's particulate gold, quite easily liberated, nothing fancy going on here, conventional off-the-shelf technology. We crush, we mill, we float to produce a concentrate. Then we regrind down to 22 microns, very good gold liberation at that grain size. And then we're already getting over 96% recovery in our scoping level test work. Now we're in the feasibility study stage. That test work, next level test work happening now, honing in, finding efficiencies. These numbers are only set to improve. So to recap, early days, we start with RPM straight to the mill. Then we grow ourselves into the Corbel deposit, that starter pit, high grade, straight to the mill. Lower grade portions of the deposits go off to the heap leach pad. And then we'll get them in, when we get into the medium grade, primarily at Corbel, we'll start utilizing these ore sorters. And with the ore sorters, we're focused on maximizing the grade, put it in there, and then the accepted portion out of the ore sorters running 4 to 6 grams per ton straight to the mill, and then the reject portion out of the ore sorters, which still has some gold in it, off to the heap leach pad. So very efficient resource extraction, maximizing the total gold recovery over the life of mine. All of that, of course, straight to the bottom line. So that's the process there. Another exploration area here south of Corbel, Stony. Same story. This is a polymetallic stacked vein system. We're seeing high-grade gold at numerous prospects, but again, the multi-element potential, thousands of grams per ton silver, up to 12% copper, antimony, many of the other critical elements. I mentioned porphyry coppers early on. We believe we're onto one of those here at Wombat. High-grade gold and high-grade copper up to 6%. And then the last prospect, I'll take you to our most recent discovery at Stibium. This is where we found gold, and then the antimony found us, you might say. And this has drawn major attention from the Department of Defense because we produce no antimony in the United States, and there's a big push on by the Department of Defense and the U.S. government to establish and fully secure U.S. supply chains. They see our project playing a big part in that, And we're very well advanced with our Title III DPA grant funding, as I said, to pursue this opportunity as we move forward. So national security, established U.S. supply chains, all in on that, also provides significant byproduct credits for the total economics of the project. So zooming out, you can see, again, district play will be out here for decades and decades with multiple mining centers as producing multiple commodities as we move forward. You can see this is why this project has drawn such attention from major companies as well as the Department of Defense for the antimony, and we're pursuing all those opportunities. I mentioned critical elements. Some of those I'm talking about, antimony, of course, but very high. These are very highly elevated concentrations of bismuth, cobalt, gallium, and indium. Those are big for semiconductors with the gallium antimonide substrates. Lanthanum, starting to see some of the rare earths out there. Scandium, this is a big one for the Department of Defense as well, used for stealth technology, F-35 jets and these type of things. Tungsten to harden steel for tanks and warships. And it's the same story with those elements. You know, negligible to no production in the United States, 100% controlled by mostly China and Russia, and no reserves in the United States. And so this is a big opportunity for our company to pursue these grants and start to bring these supply chains back to the U.S. Here's the flow sheet. We've talked about most of this already, but we've done the work to and spent the energy and the money to process for gold. And then in our flow sheet, we have the opportunity here at the back end to take off critical minerals and produce critical minerals. With the flotation, produce a concentrate like antimony will require that, and then off to a refinery. After we've leached the gold out, you have that waste stream, usually just goes off to a tailings facility. We're talking about diverting that and sending it to a critical minerals extraction plant. This is how the Chinese do it. This is how they control the market. And this is the piece we're working on with the Department of Defense for grant funding for the development studies and the CapEx to put in these critical minerals extraction plants to get this production back to the United States with our highly elevated concentrations of not only antimony, but those other. We've looked at this slide already, but let's just sum it up again. Laser focused on RPM, grow ourselves into the larger project, and then this antimony opportunity in the near term with the DoD grant funding. By the way, that antimony prospect has gold in it as well, so there'll be gold credits along the way. It's the right time, right place with the right commodities. Both gold and antimony are in bull markets, extreme bull markets, and moving into that, both at record high prices. And we have advanced projects in both of these elements. Here's the timeline and the value opportunity. So currently we're in the feasibility study for our RPM, laser focused on that. We've just done our last round of drilling, drill results to come in news flow in the coming weeks, resource update before the end of the year. Also, the metallurgical and technical studies are happening in the background. Everything converging on this feasibility study. We're trying to deliver that to market by the end of 2025. Being on state land here, we'll go then at that stage straight into permitting. That process should take about 12 months. And so best case scenario, we're producing gold out of RPM within 24 months. In the meantime, in between that, this antimony opportunity with DoD grant funding that we're pursuing for potential revenue, and then growing into the larger project, potentially taking on a strategic partnership, and that the full project, best case scenario, could be in full production by 2028. Here's a peer comparison, and this is one of the reasons we came to the NASDAQ and listed here. You can see these are similar projects with companies with North American assets listed on the North American exchanges, and the valuation discrepancy. Our direct neighbor there, U.S. Gold Mining Inc., that's a project that's been dormant for 10 years. They're just now starting to get out there, and you can see they're running 3 times our market cap, almost 2-3 times. Some of these companies are running 10, 12 or more times our market cap. And the point is, they're not even close to being as advanced as us, and many of them. No resources reported, no technical studies commenced, whereas ourselves, we're much more advanced. We have a feasibility study being released by the end of next year, and we have production and cash flow on the horizon. It's in our sights. So this is really the opportunity for the investor with a potential re-rate as people appreciate what we have here at the Estelle project. Our team, I think we have all bases covered. Myself, I'm an economic geologist. I've been around the world 30 years doing this business, taking resource stage projects and bringing them into production. Long list of those: Richard, Rodrigo, mining experts, engineering and metallurgy, Louis, construction guy on the civil side, Craig, director of finance compliance, and Avi working those capital markets in New York. And then the secret weapon, Mr. Hans Hoffman, our head of exploration, who has been working this area for over 15 years. He's doing all these discoveries and advancing these projects. So we think we have quite a deep bench here to meet our objectives and propel us forward to production. Quick corporate snapshot. It's been brutal over there on the ASX. We were on the Australian Stock Exchange. Currently, our market cap's 26 million. Unbelievable for this project. We're valued right now, our in-ground resources, at $5 per ounce. If you look at our peers listed in North America, I mean, it's in the range from $50 to $100 per ounce in-ground resources. So plenty of upside there for the investor. Today, we have about $6 million, a little over $6 million in cash. That's half in cash and half in mainly our holding in Snow Lake Resources, a lithium uranium company that we actually built and spun off on the NASDAQ. So that's liquid, and we've tapped into that before post-IPO to fund ourselves largely to this degree. Our top holders here, directors and management, we hold almost 10% of the company, always participated in the capital raisings going forward. Our most important institutional holder, Nabari Gold Fund, who have about 5 million shares, and they also hold this debt piece, which isn't due until the end of 2026, but they have a sizable equity holding as well, about 5 million shares. And they've been a great partner. They're committed at the feasibility stage, such a big milestone. They're ready to step in for bridge finance, construction finance. So it's great to have those guys on board. And just to sum it up, Alaska, with all the geopolitical and sovereign risks these days, much more of a consideration. Being in Alaska, favorable jurisdiction, and also being on state land, important bonus for the project. No federal land of native corporation land to contend with, and that means a much more streamlined permitting process. We're an aspiring gold producer. We're not here to flip the project. Now, we would take on one of these strategic partnerships at some stage. Certainly, again, that feasibility study, delivering that to market, that's a big milestone for a lot of these strategic partners. That's their entry point. Myself, I'm from Alaska. I've come full circle back home, live here, work here, pushing the project forward in the trenches 24/7. Low discovery cost per ounce. Anything less than about $10 per ounce is amazing in this business. We're doing it at $5 per ounce currently. And because we're just going after the low-hanging fruit. Everything's on the surface, outcropping at this stage. We're just going after those open pit, low strip, high grade zones right on the surface. Demonstrated that at RPM for sure. Now, there is underground potential. The deposits remain open, but we'll just leave that for future upside. As I said, we're just going after that low-hanging fruit, and there's plenty of it. Resource upside potential. The deposits remain open in all directions. We have that pipeline of prospects at Stony, at Train, at Stibium, for all the future upside. This is what the majors are looking for. They like our resources, but they like that future upside so they can be out here for decades and decades and have that long, long mine life. The multi-element potential. As I said, the gold story is strong, getting stronger, but with the discovery of silver, copper, and now antimony, which is used in clean tech, green tech, in munitions. This is why the Department of Defense is so interested in this. It's used in all the munitions, and we're 100% import reliant on China and Russia. China just announced they're stopping all antimony exports. And so you can imagine it's very urgent now to bring antimony production back to the United States, and our project is ready to step up and complete that task with our antimony, and also other critical elements. So that's the project. I invite the listeners to go to our website. You can dig deeper, all this content and much, much more. And so at that stage, I'll open it up for any questions.
All right. Great job. Very thorough presentation. We don't have too much time, but to consolidate some questions, talk a little bit about your plan going forward to raise more cash, to execute. How much do you need to raise, and when might you be cash flow positive?
Yeah, so we just did a raise. And all of our resources are focused on getting RPM into production. And so we believe with the current cash and equivalents that we have, we can achieve that objective. Everything's going into that. As I said, that RPM feasibility study is a major milestone in this business. Not only opening up the opportunity to take on strategic partnerships with major companies to ramp up what we're doing here, but also all these funding opportunities open up to us. Bridge finance, where we'd be much more comfortable than at that stage to take on a larger debt facility, knowing that we're going to be producing and making cash flow out of high margin material within a very short period of time.
And talk a little bit about dilution with future raises, or are you going to be looking at non-convertible equity instruments?
Of course, we're always trying to minimize dilution. And it's, at this stage of the game, it's difficult sometimes because you don't want to take on too much debt either. I mean, that can kill a company. So we're always very cognizant of that. And we're trying, I assure people that we're trying to avoid that. And like I said, that's why we're so focused on this feasibility study for RPM, because at that stage, we can take on facilities that are non-dilutive.
Well, we do have more questions, but we are out of time. I want to give you about a minute just to complete your presentation. Any closing remarks, Chris?
Sure. So we just finished drilling. News flow to come over the coming weeks with drilling results, resource update before the end of the year. That's where we're targeting that 500,000 ounces at 2 grams. Everything then converging on the feasibility study to be released by the end of 2025 is our objective. And in the meantime, keep an eye out for potential DOD grant opportunities.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for this. And we look forward to having you again with some more updates.
Thank you. Look forward to it.
All right, everyone. We'll be right back.